Well, shalom, shalom, everybody. It's been about 9, 10 years, and I finally decided to put my testimony out here. So people can actually understand and see where I've come from. In this long walk. Like I say, it started one day, and I believe I was walking, and I was about one step to go over that cliff. And I believe the Most High turned me around, and the rest is history, but I'm going to start back to that point. I believe it was 2004, and I was living in Waterford at the time. And even before all this happened, I remember saying to myself, I'm going to read this book. And I tried reading the book. I tried reading the Bible, but I could never get past the rainbow. Never could get past it. I tried reading 2 or 3 times. Couldn't get past the rainbow. And even during that time, I remember saying to myself that I'm going to believe this book. I believe this book. And if this book is wrong, then I'm just going to be wrong. But I'm going with this book. I never forget saying that to myself. So anyway, I'm in Waterford, and, I knew that there was a God, but I didn't know that he was, the God of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob at the time. So I remember asking him, Father, if you get this car for me, I promise I'll look for a church home. And boy, even when we don't think we know something, don't ever make a promise to the Most High and don't fulfill it. So, hey, I believe the Most High gave me the car. I got the car that I wanted. And y'all know what happened next. Do you think I looked for a church home? No. I went to Chicago in that car. And I took 4 female friends that I had. Now, these were just friends from a long time ago, my blues friends. Wasn't nothing going on with neither one of us. So I took them to Chicago with me to the Blues Fest. And second day down there, someone fell asleep at the wheel, totaled my car. Now, my car was parked, but, he totaled it. So I had to take the train home and all that. And I remember having enough money left over to buy a minivan or another car to get to work. So I got this minivan. I'm still in Waterford at the time. Now I got this minivan, and so I'm driving, after I got the minivan, I believe the father said, come back to Detroit. So I had to move back to Detroit. And when I moved to Detroit, it was a home waiting for me. It was my sister's godmother. And she said, yeah, the Most High told her to have a room available for me. So I had a room already waiting on me. So, even before I got there, right before the move, my sister was a part of a church at the time called Rhema Word International. And the pastor there was Pastor Kelvin Cotton. And I'm just saying the name just to make, keep my story straight. And she asked me, since I had the minivan, because she had some toys she wanted to bring to the church, and all that. I was like, thought about it. I was like, you know what? Hey, I'll do it, sure. What's the worst that could happen, right? So, I bring the toys to the church, I help them unload the van, and, I stayed for service. Of course, I sat in the back, I didn't want to be seen, all this. So, to be honest, I'm watching the women, that's what, I watch the women. That's why I'm sitting in the back. I want to watch. And so, as I'm sitting there, the preacher began to preach a message about how we can kill with our tongues, not just with guns and knives, but kill with our tongues. And the Most High was like, he's talking to you. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. I'm like, man. Because I used to kill my nephews with my tongue, because I didn't think that they were doing things the way I wanted them to do it. So I was killing them with my tongue, calling them, stupid and dumb and getting mad, when I would do things a certain way, And so the service went on, and, a long story short, he had an altar call. Now, y'all know a brother ain't going to an altar call. Come on, I ain't going up there. So I'm standing up, everybody go up there, and he pray for him and this and that, lay hands on him. And at the end, he looked right at me. And he was like, and I don't believe this was him talking. I don't. Because I know the Most High could use anybody at any time and any place. So he looked at me and said, "Come here, son." And I just started crying. I mean, I ain't never cried like this in my life. I mean, wailing. I mean, the church started wailing. Everybody started wailing and crying. He was like, "Come here, son." And I went up there. He just handed me the mic. It was like, "Here, you know what you got to do." Now, how would he know what the Most High was saying to me while he was preaching? He was like, "Here, you know what you got to do." And I knew what I had to do. I had to apologize in front of everybody, to my nephews and my sister and everybody, who I talked to, not angrily, but like, because they weren't doing things the way I thought things should be done. And church started crying. I mean, everybody crying. I mean, it's like, I ain't never seen nothing like that. I ain't been a part of nothing like that. So I come back the next week, and I even went shopping and bought some so-called church clothes. To me, church clothes is like polo shirt, khakis, nice little shoes, So I went back and I was going for a minute, and he had made me his armor bearer. Armor bearer. Now, I don't know anything. I don't know a scripture. I don't know the Bible. Like I said, I couldn't get past the flood. So this man made me his armor bearer. Had me sitting up on the altar with him, Now, at that time, armor bearer, I was just in charge of, taking his coat and stuff off. But he had me sitting up there like I was somebody, and I was nobody. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know no scripture at all. Maybe the only scripture I probably knew then was in the beginning. That was it. So he made me his armor bearer, and I remember going and buying this suit, and I had this suit. I never wore it to church, but I had this suit for about a year. And I finally decided to wear it to church. And when I wore that suit, it was like, man, who the heck is this? I mean, I don't wear suits no more, but even back then, I had to wear one. And long story short, I had a friend at my job, IBC North America at the time, named Ron King. And Ron King was deep into the scriptures, Ron King knew the scriptures. And I remember him trying to show me things in the Bible. I didn't want to see it at the time. I was like, I don't want to see that, man. Come on, man, get that away from me, man. I'm a good person. I ain't hurt nobody, killed nobody. So after the encounter at Rhema Word with Pastor Cotton, and I believe the Most High put something in me, during that time. And I went back to work, and I was like, "Ron, man, guess what, man?" I started, after a while, I started telling him about the Bible. He was like, "Wow." So I was like, "Man, so you got to come in. You got to come see this pastor, man. You got to hear him, man." I was excited. I was like, "You got to come hear him." Now, Ron lives in Flint, and we worked in Clarkston at the time. So I was like, "Ron, man, you got to come, see this dude, man." I'm like, "Man, but I don't know how." So the next Sunday we go to church, and the pastor made an announcement like, "Yeah, next weekend we're going to be up in Flint. We got a little thing in Flint we're going to be doing." I'm like, ain't this the most? I'm like, wow, my friend lives in Flint who I wanted to see. So I told my friend where we're going to be at, and that weekend we were in Flint at some hall. And, my friend Ron came, him and his daughter. And we sat right on the aisle row, right on the aisle. And we get there, and before he even spoke a word, he started praying for people, this and that. And I'll never forget this day. and it was this woman, and she sat right in the middle. It was like in that auditorium, it was like 3 rows. You had the center row, the right, and the left row with the 2 aisles. So I was sitting on the left aisle, me and Ron and my daughter and his daughter, and the lady was like in the middle, and the pastor. Now this was, I can tell you 100%, this was not a setup. I seen with my own eyes. He called that lady, and she walked out. And this lady, now let me tell you, I'm a dark man. This lady was darker than I. She was darker than me. And he called her. She came out to the aisle, and he was like maybe at the time 20 feet from her, because he at the front of the altar. She's in the aisle. He kept asking, "Do you believe? Do you believe in God?" And she wouldn't say nothing. She wouldn't say a word. He asked her like 3, 4, 5 times, "Do you believe?" And he kept walking. He inched a little closer to her, and she wouldn't say nothing. She wouldn't say nothing. And finally, the man pointed at her, and what I saw come out that man's finger was a lightning bolt. If you can ask Ron King, he'll back this up. It was a lightning bolt came out that man's hand, hit that lady. She flew back, like boom. She flew back like maybe 5 feet. And now, if she's on the ground, she's squirming like a snake. Her body is moving, like a snake. Her spine, everything like a snake. She hitting her head on the pews, boom, boom, boom. And it's not funny, but I looked around because I wasn't scared, because I don't know nothing. I ain't nothing to be scared of. I seen some women just run about the church, like when they seen that, they just ran. They probably still running, like 'cause they were scared what they saw. So toward the end of that service, I said, you know what, I gotta go see that lady. I gotta go see this. And when I went to that lady and I touched her, because I watched her, I knew where she went. She didn't leave. I knew what she had on. When I went and touched her, because I came from the back, and her back was, to me. And when I touched her and she turned around, I was like, whoa, man, what the heck just happened? That lady was black. When she turned around, that lady was like 4 shades lighter. She was light skinned. I'll never forget that. So the next Sunday, we all get back to the Detroit, in Detroit to the church. Everybody talking about, did y'all see that lady? Did y'all see that? I'm like, yeah, I saw that. I was right there. So a lot of witnesses saw that. So after that, I remember it was this lady, I forgot her name. She was my sister's friend. I forgot her name. But they would always have an altar call. They would always go to the altar. And the pastor, some spirit came on him where he told people, stop coming up here, every week, the same people. I'm tired of y'all. And the lady died like the next week. And the week after that, I remember I didn't go that time. But my sister and them, they went, and they said this big carbon monoxide came into the church and started knocking people out. The pastor got real sick, people got sick. I didn't go that day. See, the Most High, even from the beginning, had me, Shadow of Yah, Bezaleel, had me covered. Had me not to go at certain times. So I remember, and I love my pastor at that time. Pastor Kelvin Cotton. I'm getting a phone call here. Hold on, let me pause that. All right. So I had a phone call. So like I was saying, so I love my pastor. I love Kelvin Cotton at that time. I still do, And I remember I'm an artist as well. So I had painted his portrait, and it looked just like I was a good painter. And when I painted that picture, I believe the Most High said, "Okay, that's it. Let's go." So I stopped going, and I got wind of what was called at the time the Detroit Revival. And that was I'm gonna say sponsored or hailed or whatever you want to call it by what's the pastor's name? I forgot already. what's the pastor name? And Ambassadors for Christ Church. Oh, okay, Glenn Plummer. And I remember because it used to come on channel 26, and you could watch it, the Detroit Revival. And we watched the first few times, me and my godmother and them at the time. And you know what? We said, let's go down there. So we went down there to see it, in person, Glenn Plummer and Dwight Pate, Bishop at the time. Well, I ain't gonna call him Bishop because, but Dr. Pate, Pate. So we decided to go and see it in person, and like, okay, got a nice little movement going on here, If you're a Christian at the time and you see this, you're like, okay, this is what's up. And I'll never forget, when we left that night, I told Glenn Plummer, I said, don't be surprised if you see me around here a lot more. Because I believe at the time, that's where the Most High put me. So we had started going there to Ambassadors for Christ on Plymouth near Telegraph. And it got back to Rhema Word. And they got mad. Like, why y'all going over there? And that's why I'm saying, like, if it's one God, why are you mad if I'm going here to, to learn the word or going there? Even in Israel, we do that now in Israel. We get mad when people go fellowship with other people. It's one nation. It's one doctrine. It's supposed to be. So anyway, we go down there and we go a few times and hey, one thing I'll say, I always follow what I believe is the spirit. And I joined AFC. And, within maybe a year, probably sooner than that, I was ordained deacon there, because the head deacon at the time was Mark Scott, Deacon Scott. And he saw my dedication. I was there every Sunday on time, this and that. And he saw that I had a helps ministry. Even then, the Most High gave me a helps ministry, and he put order in me, and discipleship, which means discipline. So I was, disciplined to the move at the time. And so, long story short, Deacon Scott said, hey, man, I've been watching you. You're here every time. You got a good heart. I see you, you're here all the time. I'm going to take you under my wing. So Deacon Scott, my nose itching. So Deacon Scott took me under his wing, and, I'm not saying it was a good wing, but at the time he took me under his wing and, and taught me how to be a deacon, so maybe a year after that, we had a ceremony, and some of us were ordained deacon. Now, of course, I'm the only one that lasted, and Deacon Scott so-called retired, and I was left, and I was made head deacon of the church, and seen a lot of stuff happen there, good, bad, ugly. And I remember toward the end, still I don't know the scriptures right now. I don't know. I'm just going to church, doing this bus ministry, facility maintenance ministry, everything. And so I even met my ex-wife there. We came into the truth together. Now we're no longer together. But she played a part in this testimony. She did. She played a good part in this testimony. So toward the end, I painted Glenn Plummer's portrait. And I believe that was my signet or sign to get out. So when I left there, now me and my wife at the time, we're left wondering, what to do. And I remember asking the Father, like this is when I really began to, really talk to the Father. and asked him questions. I didn't want to hear nothing else from man. I was done with men. And I said, Father, who am I? What am I? Now, when I said what, I didn't know if I was Baptist, Christian, whatever. I was like, what am I? But even before that, I had just started toward the end of my so-called regiment, or you could call it an AFC, Ambassadors for Christ Church, and I did begin to pick the book up and look at it and read it. And I was like, wow, we're not doing what the book say. We're not doing this, we're doing that. And you're doing that, but the book say do this. I'm like, wow. So the Most High took me out of there, and when I look back, I remember my last day there, me and my wife, we sitting in the pew, and Glenn Plummer was doing a lesson, and I knew he was talking to me. I knew it, but he didn't know it. See, I think at the end, he knew what I knew that he knew about me. And his message was, if you don't want to be here, you ain't got to be here. I'm like, he talking to us. I'm like, wow, okay. So that day, and for some reason, when you're in the church, they tell you to read a proverb a day. So this day happened to be, I believe this day was either June 21st. I know it's the 21st. I think June. I know it was the 21st. So me and my wife at the time, we were walking. I said, go to Proverbs 21. I just said, go there. I said, our answer going to be there. I know it. So we get Proverbs 21 out, and we're reading it. Verse 1, I said, no, that ain't got nothing to do with that. And I get to verse 16, and it reads, now before I read this, I remember asking the Father years ago, because I knew that Solomon was so-called the wisest man, and he wanted understanding and wisdom. And I remember I said, well, hey, and I remember seeing that the Most High gave him everything else. So I'm like, you know what? All I want is wisdom. Because what we had at the time was called the shut-in service. And I didn't want nothing material. I didn't want nothing. I said, I want wisdom and understanding. And boy, when I look back now, I'm telling you, if you want something and your heart is diligent and the Most High know it, ask him and he will give it to you. I'm living proof. He will give it to you. So I remember going to Proverbs 21:16, and I get to verse 16, and it reads, the man that wanders out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. I looked at my wife, she looked at me, we left the church that day. And believe it or not, weeks later, people started literally, physically dying in that church. Dying, left and right. Like, wow, people who I used to pick up on the bus route were dying, were dead. And I'm like, wow. So long story short, again, we started wandering, and I found this other church in Westland. I forgot the name of it. Predominantly white church, They had the Christian rock stuff going. Went there a few times and met with some Gentile brothers, nice brothers, They always had like a men's group. I joined, I came over to the men's group a few times, and the Most High was giving me scriptures and stuff, and I remember asking the Father, no, this is next. I remember I kept seeing another guy from Ambassador of Christ named Lamar. What's Lamar's last name? I forgot Lamar last name. But anyway, I kept seeing Lamar and his family everywhere. I'm like, man, what up? Everywhere I go, I would see him. So he called me one day. He had my number from AFC, Ambassadors for Christ Church. And he called me. He said, Ron, man, you left the church yet? I was like, man, we just left the church like last week, man. He's like, for real? It's like, man, get over here, man. I got something to show you. Now, I could have been a hard-headed, Christian, like, man, what you got to show me? You ain't got to show me nothing. But see, I wasn't like that. He said, get over here. I got something to show you. He didn't tell me what, but I knew it was something with the scriptures. So I went over there, and he said, man, He said, Sunday is not the Sabbath. Now, believe it or not, up until that time, I never even heard the word Sabbath. Never even heard it. Remember, I couldn't read. I never got that far in the scripture to read the Sabbath. He said, Sunday is not the Sabbath. He opened the book up to Leviticus 23:3. He took my finger, like, like you go to jail or whatever, and they fingerprint you. He took my finger and put it there, like, read. I was like, I'm reading it. Leviticus 23:3. It said, 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath. Like the 7th day. Okay, so I'm like, okay, what they got to do with anything? He said, what day of the week is Sunday? I said, the first day. I'm like, oh, ding, 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 ding. Then he put a video on by this man. I'm not good with names. Passion for Truth Ministries. Gentile man. And the title was, Should Christians Celebrate Christmas and Easter? And he put that video on, and I sat there and watched it, me and my wife. And it didn't take long for me to be convinced that what we were doing in church was wrong. 100% wrong. So we had joined a fellowship with him called House of Joseph, which was ran by a Gentile named Dr. Charles. I forgot his last name, Charles. So I'm not good with names. Charles, I can't think of that name. Him and his wife named Diane. Charles, Chuck and Diane. And they were Gentiles teaching about the Sabbath and the feast days. I'm like, okay. And there was some Jewish people there, So that's when I first got with of how to keep the Sabbath, and the holy days, the feast days and all that, and how to eat right, eat no pork and stuff like that. And I remember sitting there one day. Now, one thing about that class there, the House of Joseph, they didn't read scriptures. He would always bring these white chalkboards, or what you call dry erase marker boards. And he would have his lesson already, lined up, like 4 or 5 boards lined up. And at the time, I'm like, man, I need some scriptures. I need to be fed. I'm like, this is good, but this can't be it. So I remember just sitting there, and I remember this is like maybe a year after we've been there, me and my wife at the time. I remember sitting there and just looking at the book. I'm like, something went off in my head. Like, these are black people. And I shouted out real loud, like, these are black people. I wouldn't show everybody. Like, these are black people. I think 1 or 2 people believed me and saw what I was seeing. I'm like, man, these are black people. So now, okay, my radar's going up now. I'm like, okay. So I asked the Most High one more question. But even before that, let me get back to something else. I remember the Most High, when he first got my attention and started to bring me over, he had me look up certain words that I was taught in the church. And the first word he had me look up was the word church. And it was a German word, I remember, which meant like circle or circus. I'll never forget that. I'm like, wow. I'm like, what do a German word got to do with the Bible? What do a German word got to do with this? German. Never forget. So I started paying close attention to Germans and found out that the fake Jews, or the Jewish people, are pretty much German and Russian. So I looked up the word ein, Stein and ein, and it's a German. I'm like, okay, now stuff's starting to come together, starting to make sense to me that, okay, I'm starting to put this thing together. So another long story short, I asked the Father, I said, if the church was wrong, then why you send me there? And I remember hearing clear as day, he said, son, I sent you there to show you what not to do. So I started sending everybody in the church back then letters, like, I sent them the Constantine Creed, like, man, get out of this church. And they pretty much like, nigga, get out of here, man. You crazy. And they're like, man, you doing that Jewish stuff, and long story short, so, we're kicking it at the House of Joseph now. And like I said, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, a light bulb went off, like, these are black people. Like, man, so the father said, you know what? Took me out of that, said, this ain't it. So now I'm wandering again. And I remember, I said, you know what? Let me look into this Sabbath some more. I didn't really know nothing about the Sabbath, just that they were keeping it on Saturday, and from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. That's why they were keeping it. So I looked up the word Sabbath on YouTube, and I came across a guy named Elijah Israel, colored dude, black dude. Because up until this point, I've never seen a brother teach this. And the name of the video was The Sabbath, the seventh day, Saturday, not Sunday or by the moon. And I clicked on it. Now I'm at work watching it. I'm like, if I get fired, I don't care. I'm trying to get some information. I clicked on the video and I'm watching it. I mean, brother had scriptures. And I said, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody that got scriptures, line upon line. I mean, I didn't know what that meant back then, but I mean, this brother was like scriptures, like reading the book. I'm like, wow. So I found out who he was and I called him. I called him like, I'm brand new in this, and I saw your videos, we talked. And I went down, he's in Gary, Indiana. Elijah Israel, the Church of Jesus, in Gary, and he got multiple churches or assemblies now. So I called him, and he answered the phone. We kicked it, I went down there, and I even got baptized down there, I remember. And we went to certain feast days down there in Gary. I went to Gary a few times, kick it with him. Real good brothers down there, But the Most High said, you know what? Said, that's not it either. Took me out of that. But at least now I got a foundation now that I know that we're the people of the book now. That we are Israel. So he was the first one to show me that I am Israel. Brother Elijah was the first one to show me and prove to me that we were the people of the book. So the Most High took me out of that. And so, no, he told me about it. He said, he asked me where I lived at. I said, Detroit. He said, yeah, it's a brother up there named Nehemiah. So he gave me brother Nehemiah's number, which at the time Nehemiah was at House of Jacob. And I called Nehemiah and I went to visit House of Jacob, a few times. I'm like, okay. And one thing I'll never do again, and yeah, still to now, I didn't join nothing. I just go in fellowship. So, fellowship, House of Jacob a few times, for a good while. Met some brothers there, Brother Theophilus, Brother Ron, Brother Nehemiah, of course, from there. Brother Samson, met from there. Some other brothers, but I couldn't deal with the name Jesus anymore. In my spirit, I knew that wasn't his name. Because if we're Hebrew, he has to be Hebrew. I'm like, I couldn't deal with the name, and they used a J name. And this time I wasn't even wearing fringes and stuff yet. I wasn't even wearing garments or nothing. I'm a babe, but I'm still learning at the time. And I remember having a shofar, and I blew it in there one time. House Jacob, they told me don't blow it. They're like, we don't do them rituals. I'm like, ritual? I'm like, it's tons of scriptures that support blowing the shofar. So I said, these guys are more Christian than they are Hebrew. So Most High took me away from that. And Brother Samson, he left too, because Brother Samson has some scriptures, that they didn't want to hear. Because if you go against them, they don't want to hear nothing. You just got to be their way or the highway. So guess what? Some of us, we took the highway. And so Brother Samson, he had put me up on, at the time, a group called, what's it called then? Truth Seekers 313 in Detroit. And it took me a while to go there. I finally went, and Truth Seekers then were, Brother Quab, Brother Brandon, and Brother Shofar was teaching at the time there. I went there. I'm like, you know what? I like what these brothers doing. I kind of had like a checklist because I've been through so many assemblies, whatever. So I had like a checklist. I'm like, okay, they got beards. Okay, they looked the part. They looked Israel. They had the head wraps. They had the scarves on, the shamaks and all that. They had Hebrew names, for the most part. I'm like, okay. So I went the first time, and I didn't go back for a while. And even before that, I had met Brandon. I met him at my job. Brandon's high-tech CNC, not operator, but programmer. So he had came to my job and, trying to get a job there to be a programmer, and they didn't want to pay him what he wanted to pay. Brandon, he know his stuff. So I met him there, and, and my thing is, when I see a brother, I want to, so I'm excited. I'm like, I came to Brandon and said, man, you know who you are? I said, man, what you talking about? I said, man, we Israel, man, and Brandon will tell you the game, he'll tell you that, he kind of played with me a little bit because he said he had heard me at my station, playing videos. He said, oh, my man, he must know something. He playing videos, okay. So he played with me, like, yeah, I know this and that. So went over there, finally made it to the Truth Seekers at the time. And I was there for a while, and by the time I got to there, the Most High began to put, scriptures in me, began to put things in me, began to put the word in me, the Ruach in me. And I was there for a while, and was there for a while. But then the Most High, he just had me on the move, and I have to go wherever the Ruach leads me to go. So, I go different places, and I help where I'm at. My first thing is I'm a servant, so. But my journey has been a long journey, It's been a long journey to where I am now in the scriptures and, where I am now. So, and the one thing the Most High did not show me, he did not lead me to no camps. I know nothing about no camp. I know nothing about GOCC, IUP, whatever, IUIC. I knew none of them groups until I got deeper into the truth and I found out about them groups. The Most High showed me a lot of scriptures before that they're still coming to relevant now that he showed me back then. And that's why I'm not saying I know everything, because no man does. But what I do know is from the Father, because no man didn't show me what I know. He used man to confirm what he's shown me. But for the most part, the Most High gave me this word. And that's just my testimony up until now. And I just finally decided to put it on. And I'm sure it's more to come in the next 10 years, Most High willing. And I'm just glad the Most High woke me up. I give him all praises, honor that's due. And I never take his name in vain. And, that, I say shalom.